Hello and welcome to this episode of the Game Plan podcast by College Baseball Advisors. On this podcast, we get awesome baseball people to talk about their experiences and lesson learned through the game of baseball. On today's episode, we had Dave Gage, who was just named on August 10th, the new head baseball coach at UMBC, that's University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I've known Dave for a long time. What a great, interesting background. Started at American International as a player, transferred to Southern Vermont, was the actual valedictorian when he graduated, in addition to the all-time saves leader and hit-by-pitch leader. And his first coaching job was taking over as the head coach at Southern Vermont. So we talked about that. He then left before he could see that the school was going to close, which it did a year later. He then was at Stevenson in Maryland for 6 seasons. He then spent the 24th to 26 at Mount St. Mary's with Frank Leone as the associate head coach, and then just, as I said, took over at UMBC. So we talked a lot about variety of things, what it was like taking over this program. He's got only 7 returners, 24 transfers coming in, and what that entails. We talked about the 27 class of recruiting and how he's using his camp coming up on September 12th to be a big opportunity to recruit. And I wrote down on my notes as we were talking about camp that I have the all-time best inside information you can do as a player at a showcase or a prospect camp. So for those that are interested in wanting to know what my best tip is, that has flat out gotten 5 to 7 of my guys straight up recruited at camps, feel free to send me a message. You could email me, wayne@mazzoni.com, and just put in camp in the subject box, and I will write that back to you. I think it's really awesome, but I want to make you earn that tip. So anyway, great conversation with Dave Gage. So without further delay, here's my talk with him. All right, Dave, I'm really excited to have you on. You're one of the guys like I kind of know, but there's a lot that I really want to know about you. So first and foremost, with everything going on, taking a new job, you had a team meeting with captains, well, some of the leadership guys, and then you have a full team meeting today. Like, you have a lot going on. So to take an hour to join me, first and foremost, welcome and thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me and get to talk about UMBC. Just super excited about this opportunity. So looking forward to talking.
So we're gonna totally dig into that, but I'm gonna go through my normal routine, which is like getting into people's background. So you were born and raised in New York, right? Tell me about your area. Like, what part? Obviously, New York's huge. What was the area like?
Yeah, small town New York. Went to a Class B school in New York, so middle sized, but not a lot of people went and played college baseball from where I was from. I think I was like one of the first, in a while, and grew up and just basically in a baseball family. My dad sort of coached, my brother still plays. So that was pretty much, our background, and then went off to Southern Vermont College and played there for 4 years, and then became the head coach there after that.
So let's unpack a little of that, because you're one of the younger guys that's joined this podcast, and I only say that in that, was other sports part of your youth/high school, or were you a baseball only guy?
Yeah, I mean, you were pretty much a 3-sport athlete if you could play sports around, so which was good. So played football as most people do, and then actually played soccer in high school. And then because I wasn't good enough to be the starting quarterback, so then I was just the backup, so switched to soccer.
Yeah, I get that.
and,
Yeah.
and then played basketball and then played baseball, in the spring. So yeah, 3-sport athlete.
And what got you to Southern Vermont? I mean, I'm guessing, I'll start with this question. How far door to door was Southern Vermont from where you grew up?
About an hour and a half.
Oh, so
actually,
really not that far.
No, it wasn't far. I actually went to American International College out of high school, and actually our assistant coach at the time was a Southern Vermont alum, and Southern Vermont just had a brand new coach, and it was a good opportunity to go and play and make an impact in small school. AIC was in Springfield, Mass, right in a city. Again, I was from the Adirondacks of New York, not a good fit, but chased the Division II a little bit, and then had the opportunity to go to Southern Vermont, which is a small Division III school, and ended up being a really good career. And without that place, I'm probably not sitting in this seat today. So everybody's journey is a little bit different, but that was definitely a major piece.
So at AIC, were you recruited to go there?
Yeah, probably now that I sit in the seat, it was lightly recruited. But again, like I wasn't surrounded by people who knew,
Yeah.
so it was like had a couple conversations with the coach, great guy, like, and they had some stuff. And again, it was Division II opportunity to play. And from what I was looking at, and I just wasn't physical enough yet to go there and play. And I was on the team in the fall, and it just like I could read the writing on the wall. I was going to be the backup, and I didn't love the place as
Right. Right.
so I was like, well, let's find a better spot. And then again, the assistant coach was like, well, hey, this Southern Vermont's a place that I went to and really liked it, and you might like sort of fits who you are a little bit better. So that was the route I went.
So I got it. So that the connection to Southern Vermont was basically one of the AIC coaches, and
Mhm.
that's what set you up there. And you're right, going there, it appears you had a heck of a career both in the classroom and on the field. So it's one of those moves where many years later you realize that was the right move and it actually worked the way it's supposed to work, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's what I tell guys, right? And I'm sure we'll talk about the portal and like sometimes transferring is a really positive thing. Like I know it
Yep.
gets into this like negative mindset, but like sometimes you just need fresh air. Like sometimes you didn't see everything that was truly out there, so it's okay to transfer and find the right fit. But like do your research and get it right the second time, and thankfully I did. With that move.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. I think sometimes what you're looking at when you're coming out of high school is you want like all these perfect things, and then you get there and you realize like maybe what I thought I wanted is different. So you're right. The reality is the recruiting and college search process is a very inexact thing, and sometimes you have to get in it to realize, well, where I'm at's not right, and make the move. So here's what I know about your Southern Vermont career. You're the valedictorian, you're the saves leader, and you're the hit by pitch leader.
Mhm.
So that I bet you in the history of college baseball, no one has those three things that you had there. That's pretty awesome. So obviously you're bright. You like to come in at crunch time and you would wear a baseball. You didn't really care about that. So that says a lot about you there. Um,
Yeah,
while you
yeah, I
were
think.
there, go ahead. You can comment on that if you want.
No, just the valedictorian thing I like to touch on because education can change lives. And I became the head coach right after at 23. And I tell people it was like, again, part of my journey is all about doing well in the classroom. And I think sometimes that's so important. And obviously, with you dealing with a lot of high school kids trying to find the right spot or like, man, your degree and your education can really change so many things and create your path. So, I think that's a important thing.
When did you know in your life that coaching would be a part of? Was that something very early on? Was that something you started to learn in college? When did you realize this is my career path?
I think when I was 18, I just knew like again, I'm a 5'9" second baseman. Like I wasn't gonna play pro ball. Again, had the dream, right? Like, and someone was gonna have to tell me no, but I also realized like that's probably not the end goal. And the end goal was coaching. I love coaching. I've had so many great mentors in my life that, impacted my life. And, so I was like, man, you can do this and do that and change people's lives and be a part of people's lives. And so that's why I want to get into coaching. And that's why I love this profession.
So that your history, if I go backwards from UMBC to Mount St. Mary's to Stevenson and go back is very clear. What was it literally after graduation you took over at Southern Vermont? Because I know you also coached travel teams and college. What was after college? What was the journey right after that?
Yeah, so I was coaching a summer team in college. Like I was coaching actually my younger brother's summer team, and then a year after, so I was the sports information director at Southern Vermont for a year, and then a year later they asked me to become the head coach. So
Okay, so you were there ultimately. What year was your first year as head coach, and you were there till when? 2017, is that correct?
yeah, so took over in May of 2012, and then 17 I left for Stevenson.
Okay, so obvious. This is an obvious question. There's no way I'm the first guy to ask you this. What was that like? Your first coaching job is the head coaching job at the place where you went to school. I mean, was that, do you look back on it and go, how in the world did I actually, yeah, right? So
Yeah,
tell me,
I
I
knew
mean,
nothing.
obviously you figured it out,
Yeah.
but it must have been nuts in the beginning.
I thought I knew everything, knew nothing, right? And I think the crazy thing is I was coaching guys. I was a head coach for guys that I was hanging out with a year ago, and but I knew what they were doing, and I knew how to change some of the stuff, right? So it
Smart.
was like how to get it right. And I remember I had that meeting in May when I got named the head coach, and I said, listen, like this is going to be my career, right? And we are friends, but for the next year or 2 years that I'm your coach, I am your coach. And probably lost some friendships because I knew this is where the journey that I wanted to go on was to be the head coach. And I'll be honest, at 23, I think at that time, like I was okay staying at Southern Vermont College the rest of my life. Like it was my alma mater. Like they were paying me pennies. But I didn't care. I don't even think I asked what the salary was.
Right.
Yeah, you want to hire me? Like, yeah, of
Did,
course.
did you take a pay cut from SID?
No, it was
All right, that's not bad then. Yeah.
yeah. It was not a lot. But it's just what I knew I wanted to do is I wanted to coach. So yeah, threw a lot of stuff at the wall. The best thing was like got to learn, had some great coaches around me. Got to learn from like the basketball coach and the volleyball coach and like sit in their practices, watch how they were handling certain situations, discipline situations, right? Because like when I was coaching summer teams, like the baseball stuff was the baseball stuff.
Yeah.
It was the running the program that I'm so thankful I got to do, being there and having some really good people around me. The athletic director at the time, who's now the athletic director at Susquehanna, is still really close with, helped me learn how to, communicate with our players and be honest with our players. And just really good opportunity to learn from great people around me at that time.
And I'm not sure the timeline of this is correct because you said you would have stayed at Southern Vermont. Obviously, you went to Stevenson, and I know Southern Vermont is not a college anymore. So did they close and you left? Did you see the writing on the wall? What was it that led to that transition?
Saw the writing on the wall. I mean, there were some things happening there that you could sort of see. Obviously, in higher ed, you're paying attention to those things, but you could see what was going to happen there. Sad, but enrollment was dropping and budgets were declining, and it was pretty obvious it was going to happen. So it happened a year before. I think I left in 17. I think they announced in 18.
I see. Got it. Right. So you could say, and I had Chris Solano on, who's now the head coach at New Haven. He was at Dowling, doing really well, and he basically saw the same thing, and he left, and then Dowling closed, a couple years later. So let's talk a little bit about Stevenson, which is a really cool little spot, right? And the connection we had at Stevenson, and I can't remember exactly, that's why I'm going to ask you, is Breton LaRose, who I coached at Sacred Heart, who's just a sweetheart of a kid and really good player. How much time did you guys spend together at Stevenson?
Just my last year. He did such a good job. It propelled me into Frank asking me to come over. But yeah, I spent 6 years at Stevenson and, dealt with the COVID situation. And that was, something that was interesting. And, but had some good years there. I mean, we knocked on the door quite a bit there and, a couple 20-win seasons and finished the last year with the first 500 plus season. And I think it was like 10 years or something like that. So yeah, some great times and, coached some really great kids there, had 3 pitchers of the year. So was pretty happy with our time there.
What's the enrollment at Stevenson?
It was about 2,000.
About 2,000. Okay. I've never been to campus, but it's interesting. Obviously, at the time you were there, and then, of course, when Breton joined, you guys were hitting recruiting really hard. I mean, you guys worked really hard there to build that program. I certainly remember that. There was a lot of kids that hadn't heard of Stevenson, and then when you guys started recruiting them and they went down there, they saw it as a really viable place. So you were there, I believe it was 6 years. Obviously, the COVID year was one of the years, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then you joined Frank. By the way, I had a very funny text exchange with Frank about 2 days ago, who was at William and Mary, and then went to Marymount, and then went to Mount St. Mary's. In the history of coaching moves, I don't think anyone's had that, which we were joking about. You must have been on recruiting calls and mentioned the wrong school, right, at some point. But obviously, Mount is a really cool spot. I went to Gettysburg. We used to play Mount. And then when I was at Sacred Heart, we would play Mount. We'd stay in Gettysburg. I mean, what a really cool place. Frank is one of the all-time greats. So talk about your time there at Mount with Frank. Was that a great experience, you guys running that program?
It was one of the best. I mean, it was, 3 of the best years I've had in coaching. And, people would you always ask me when I was at Stevenson in Southern Vermont, like, do you want to get to the Division I side? And I was like, honestly, I'd have to go be an assistant, and there's not many people I'd want to work for. But Frank was always one. And, and when Frank had called me and asked me to come, I looked at my wife and she was like, he's the person that you said you would go work for. Like, this is your opportunity to go do it. So I'm incredibly thankful for Frank. Like, I'm not sitting in this office right now without Frank. Got to learn. Man, what a tremendous person to work next to every day. Competitive, fiery, but just look what he does with programs. And there's just he's one of one, and I'm just incredibly thankful for him. And he's one of the best. Like, there's not a better way to say it.
And then the other guy who was interesting, I mean, I'm old, dude. I got gray here, right? So in 1995, I was the pitching coach at Fairfield University, right? And I went out and I was friends with Paul Maneri, who was the head baseball coach at Notre Dame. I go out there to work camps and I meet Corey Mee, who was working at Notre Dame at the time. And then Corey Mee joins Frank and you. Corey is a tremendous coach in his own right with great head coaching experience. I mean, that's a heck of a staff the three of you had together there. Tell me about what was it like working with Corey?
Yeah, Corey's a tremendous human being. I mean, one of the best human beings in our profession. And to be in the office last year with that much head coaching experience was incredible. And we all sort of saw things in, a lot of similar ways and a lot of different ways. And I would remind our players, like, how lucky you are to be in this, to be surrounded by 3 head coaches and be able to learn and just, I think when you sit in this seat, your focus is so much on the players and loving your players, and assistants have that too, but definitely being in the head coaching seat, that. So to have 3 guys that all have that love for the players, it was a fun year. Obviously, I think we all thought we were a little bit better than our season finished, but just being around each other in the office every day was fun because there was a challenge and there was learning and you could constantly learn. So yeah, Corey's a great human being and a good baseball coach, and really enjoyed my time with him.
And I remember, when you were named at UMBC, I had said to Frank, hey, if you're looking for someone, I'll keep my ears open. And he's like, I think I'm already pretty far along. He goes, I knew how good a coach Dave was and that he was going to get a job. So I had some people in mind. So that was a credit to you. He's always said wonderful things about you. So obviously now the UMBC comes open. Coach Bowen leaves, goes to Towson. Was this for you the obvious next move now? With your track, even as young as you are, right? Still now, your track record is this is kind of the obvious move. So was that, hey, it's in the area. I know the area now. You've been there quite a while. This is the next obvious move. So was it pretty much a no-brainer to throw your hat in for this job?
Absolutely. And, I've obviously now recruited in Maryland, right, for 10 years. So, have done this and have got some really good players, have coached some really good players. But also UMBC, the degree is really good. And that's what excited me about it as I started to look at the jobs that our guys are getting out of here. It was sort of a no-brainer to come back, back in Baltimore County. I know the positives of being in Baltimore County, and it's a great place. Again, I've only been here a couple of weeks, but there's an emphasis on winning, which is really cool. There's a lot of teams who have won here, and then just the degree that our guys are getting here. And then Liam and his staff did a great job here. I mean, they were really good the last couple of years. And so I think just to continue that, and hopefully take it to even another level.
Yeah, I guess in the big picture, it's better to walk into a place that's had recent success and the coach moves on for another job, as opposed to the place was a mess, they're getting rid of the coaching staff and oh my God, look at all we have to do here. I know very little about the school, so I really want to get into, eventually, right after this question, kind of your coaching style, the things that are on your plate taken over, which is kind of overwhelming, although you seem to have a good personality to manage a lot of things like that. So just start, though, for me and anyone else watching, listening, tell us about the school itself.
Yeah, so it's in Baltimore County, obviously. It's a University of Maryland system, 11,000 undergrads, so 14,000 kids on campus between undergrad and graduate, 17 sports. Again, a lot of winning that happens here. And just a great degree, have an economics degree, which a lot of our guys do, sort of in that business model. Research institution. So, if you anything in that, it's a Research One institution. Just a really good place, beautiful buildings, bigger campus. I'm excited to walk kids around here and show them. We have 5 recruits on campus this week, so busy week, and obviously right just behind the ball a little bit in 27. So getting those guys on campus, and but it's a special place to just come and be around, and again, just excited to be here.
So start with this now. You get this job. You're, of course, excited, as anyone would be with a new job. But then you probably also see, like, wow, I got this job late. There's a lot. I don't even know my team. I think we had set this up previously, and your sport admin called you into something. But you're like, I don't even know who's my guys are yet, right? Which, of course, you'll learn very quickly. But is there an order of operations of things you had to do in the first week or 2 weeks as you got this job? How did you manage all that?
Yeah, so our roster number was low. Obviously, right? Liam just went across town. A lot of guys, again, great experience, right? Stayed with him.
Yep.
Getting the job in August, a couple other guys had went on and decided to go to other places, and so our roster number was low. So it was filling the roster for this fall was option one, and then hiring a staff and getting a couple assistants on board and at least get them to that point. So we're there. Definitely learning about guys, and my coaching style you asked about is like just a lot about relationships. So getting to know about our, who they are as people, is really important, and some of that is like putting faces to names.
Yeah.
Guys we recruited, like just the way the portal is and the way this process went. Again, got the job in August. Like a lot of times, meeting guys was the first time was in this office over the last week. And typically, right, have them on campus for a visit or a Zoom call or whatever. We didn't have time for that. So it was like get them into campus and get them eligible. And so the biggest thing was just filling the roster, and then retaining some of the guys who were still in the portal, waiting to find out who was. So the staff and then just the roster have been the biggest things over the last 3 weeks.
Okay. So 2 questions on that. About from the amount of eligible guys to return this year, and of course it's normal in this modern world. Coach leaves, so there's going to be a lot of movement. How many returners do you have?
7.
You have 7 returners. Okay. And then how many incoming portal guys?
24.
Holy cow. So you have it very stressful, crazy, but exciting, because realistically, it's a new setup for like almost everybody, right? You have all these first of all, that's tremendous work, by the way. You had to make that many moves on these portal guys, 24 guys in basically 3 weeks. Dave, is that accurate?
My official hire day was August 10th, so 2 weeks.
Okay, so about 2. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
2 to 3 weeks, yeah.
right. And I would imagine the bulk of that work is you, because you didn't even have a staff until you're just getting these guys on board. So yeah, I guess you had to, I'm trying to think what I would do. You probably had to make offers based on, I'll look at some stats, I'll look at some video, I'll get on a call with this kid. Maybe I call a coach or two if I can. But if they check those boxes, you're going to offer a kid. Was it pretty much that sequence?
It was a lot. Like I was up till 2 a.m. because I was making calls to kids in California. We got 3, maybe 4, 3 California kids. So excited to bring those guys here. The phone was nonstop. I think my wife asked me, she said, "Are you going to look up from your phone?" I said, "Not yet, maybe in a couple of weeks." But, it was constant. It was just a lot of work, and, just telling kids about our vision. And I'm so thankful that those kids and their parents believed in our vision. Because sure, like they have my track record, but they didn't know, and so really thankful for them, really thankful to our support staff who, got these guys into our admissions. And I think that's what winning programs and winning institutions have, right? Is like a lot of them could have been like, yeah, good luck. Like,
Right.
the admissions piece was already closed. Like they closed July 31st, the Common App. And so they worked, tremendously well. I'm so thankful for them. And just the commitment to our program was tremendous over the last couple of weeks to help us fill this roster and get everyone in place.
So I think you had sent this to me on a text, which seems obvious. Maybe it's changed since then. Clearly, 98% of your time is going to getting these 24 kids in for this fall. That's a huge scramble. And then much less the 27. So I think you had told me at the time you had 127 commit. I don't know if that's upped, but it makes sense. How can you go after 27s? You got to solve this fall and next spring first. How are you approaching the 27 class? Now, obviously, today's the first day of classes. Unless I'm mistaken, you can no longer get any portal guys in. So now it's on to the 27s. How are you managing all that?
Yeah, that's where we're at. I mean, quickly flip the script. We got 5 guys on campus this week of 27s. We're going to have a camp, which is going to be, huge for us because
Huge.
Our staff can all see them together, right? So that's where we're going to try to put a major piece into that in September. So, and then 28s, like we're on some 28s too. It's just flipping it as quickly as possible and helping them see our vision.
Yeah. So let's get that out because I think that camp is important. What's the date of your camp?
September 12th.
September 12th. Good. So it's funny. I had on Greg Mamula from Delaware was the last person on, and he had come off of 2 days of camp and talking about how he runs camps and what he's looking for. And I get so frustrated with people that I work with in the recruiting process because I have heard so many times from parents, camps are money grabs it's the furthest thing from the truth. It is a legal way to try guys out. They get to see UMBC, the field. They meet you. They meet the staff. They'll meet some of the guys. Like, it is the best thing you could do to move it forward at UMBC if that's a school on your list, right? So the money grab thing angers me. Now, I will say this. I know you want to answer this. I've run millions of camps. I'm throwing out invites to everybody that has a pulse that's in the 27 and 20. But you're not showing up because we want your money. You're showing up because we want to find 5 guys out of this class that can impact the team. So especially for you now with opens, a lot of openings in 27, this is a huge camp for you in the program, correct?
It's huge. I mean, and what I always tell people about camps is, right, like we all go out and we watch guys and, our staff, right? And sure, we might see a guy multiple times and we might have it in our notes that we've seen him. But camp is the one time that our entire staff sees the same guy at the same time and can go in the office and say, this kid fits us here, right? We don't ever go on the road with our assistant coaches, with other assistants or with our head coach if we are the assistant. It is the only time that happens. And, our class in 26 at the Mount, the guys who are just coming on campus this week, I'm fairly certain it was of the 7 high school kids, 6 of those guys we saw at a camp, whether it was a team camp or a prospect camp.
Yeah.
And again, because I had seen him or someone else had seen him and we went in the office and we were able to sit with Frank and able to say, like, we think this guy fits here because of this. And He was able to say, like, I didn't see this, or I do like this. What did you think? Or when did you see him here? It's the only time that an entire staff is going to see you at the same time. Right. And I think that camp is just so valuable. And I hear it again, like, oh, you're just looking for, no, I'm not just looking for money. Like, I got better things to do with my life than to sit there just for money. Right.
Right.
And that's, we do invite other Division IIs and Division IIIs because I do think, like, we're not going to be able to take everybody.
Of course not. Right.
But it's just I don't know. Camp is a great opportunity in my opinion.
I think the other thing people don't realize, and I think it's hugely important, is you get to run your camp the way you want, meaning you can do drills or set up the camp to evaluate what you want to see. When you go to a showcase camp or you go to a game, you might not see all the skills you want. So now, yes, you could do a full IO, but if you wanted to, you could run a 20-minute segment with just the middles and run them through stuff and go, wow, I like the way this guy handles my drills because I know what it's like when I work with my own guys on this drill, right? So I think people they don't understand that workout and the format you run it is the way you want to evaluate guys, and it's really important. So I guess this is a perfect time to ask you this. Do you have something you're in particular looking for when you recruit? And I'm going to ask you this in two ways twice. Here's what I mean. Let's talk a little bit about a position player first, a pitcher second, and then let's talk about on the field things you're looking for, and then maybe off the field things. So if we start with a position player, obviously we kind of all know what a good player is, but is there particular things you say, hey, I like speed, I like versatility? Is there anything you particularly like out of a position player?
Yeah, I think our style is that we like to play fast and we like to push the tempo. So guys who play hard, how hard do they run out of the box when they fly out to left? Which I think everybody's doing, but that's really important to us. Just guys who love the game. Like we try to pick out different moments of like, do they love it here? Do they love it, 5 hours into camp, right? Again, you talk about like, how do we figure this out? So that's a big thing with position guys. We obviously love the bat tool, the hit tool. Right-handed hitters play at our park pretty well, but we want to have an offense that travels. So yeah, I think every position's a little bit different, but definitely guys who fit our style, which is definitely that we like to play fast and push the tempo.
And then let's stick with the offensive side. Once you've identified from camp or however, hey, this kid could play, I know that. Will you, either through your own phone calls or talking to any coaches or watching them additionally, be looking for off the field things that you might use to make a decision whether you want to offer the kid or not?
Oh yeah, we on our visits we spend 4 to 5 hours, and we're just like they're evaluating us. They're evaluating our school. We're evaluating them. How do they hold doors? What do they say when their parents speak up? What is their initial reaction? Because I always tell people is like, if you can't be all in on your parents during a 2 hour, 4 hour visit, like those are the people that are paying money for you to go places. They're giving up their livelihoods, right? Like I know you're going to do it to me when I bench you in the middle of April, So that respect thing, and we spend so much time around these guys. Like we want to be around the right people, and I think that we have a job to do, which is to be role models for these kids. But they got to want it too, right? And if they're not wanting it from their parents, then they're probably not going to want it from us. So we definitely evaluate a lot when we're on the visits, and then evaluate a lot when we're out. Again, right? Like, how are they leaving camp? What's their how do they walk out? How do they do different things? How do they arrive? Like, it's all being evaluated. Again, we got to separate two guys that throw 92, right? And we got to separate two guys that run 6'8". So we got to separate two guys with 90. So we got to try to evaluate it, just like they're doing the same thing with schools, right? They're doing the same thing with us as coaches, as they should. So I think it all comes down to it, and just who do I want in our program? Who do I want that I know can walk down the hall and our AD is going to be super excited that that person's on the baseball team?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, it is so important that, right, in that meeting, do you mesh? This is going to be someone you're going to be around for many years in a lot of situations. I mean, again, back to Greg Mamula was saying with his travel schedule and his conference, spend a lot of time together on buses and planes and airports. Like, I want to like the guys that I'm around. So it certainly matters. Let's go over to the pitcher side. Is there anything on the field pitching wise that makes you want somebody? We kind of, again, know, some guy comes into camp, he loves UMBC, he's throwing 96 to 98. Yeah, maybe we'll take that guy, right? But like, it's got to be more than velo. What else do you value on the mound?
I think on the mound, again, you got to throw strikes, right? But I think people know that, but it's something that, again, that we value a lot. And because there's not a lot of guys who go from not throwing strikes to throwing strikes.
Fair.
So we value it a lot. There is a sliding scale. Again, like we might say yes to 98 that doesn't throw strikes, but we're not going to say that to 91, right? And I think the other thing is like you have to dominate at the level you're at. It's really hard to not dominate at the high school level and then think you're going to dominate at the Division I level. The hitters are so good. They train on velo. The hitting coaches are so good. There's video on everything, and right, I think the average ERA in Division I baseball is like 6+ or something.
Yeah, you're right, man. Yep.
Like you better be dominating at the high school level if you think that coming to the Division I level and going to have a role is going to be a reality. So, and then like spin and that secondary stuff is important. Getting to both sides of the plate becomes pretty important. But again, like we definitely, if you dominate, at that level, that's something that stands out to us. So I don't think results are everything in recruiting, but I think on the mound, it does play a part.
Yeah, and it is very true, right? Just sometimes you can judge a pitcher just by the way the hitters react to him and what kind of at bats they have. The thing I would always value back in my day, I haven't coached in a while now, is I would always love the three pitch guy that could throw any pitch at any time. 1-0 changeup, 2-1 breaking ball. He had that unpredictability because unless your fastball has ride or crazy movement to it, if you throw it in a predictable count, it's going to be real trouble, right? But if you're unpredictable, I mean, one of my favorite guys I ever had was James Taubel, who actually went on to play in one of those Savannah Banana teams, a tremendous fiddler, left-handed pitcher. I'll never forget, we're playing at Sacred Heart. We go down to play LSU. Every pitch mile per hour is up on the board. Their guy's 94, 95. He's throwing 84, 85. And you could see like the crowd and the other team like, oh my God, we're going to destroy this guy. And he just proceeds to completely dominate and frustrate these guys because he's throwing 2-0 sliders in on the hands, and he's just and the guys are throwing bats because hitting's hard when it's unpredictable, So everybody's looking for something, but I think that was always something I like. I have two kind of main questions for you still. Feel free to pass on the first set of them. But you had this meeting with the captains just before you came on this Zoom with me. What was the gist of what you discussed with those guys in that meeting? Again, you don't have to give me verbatim, but what was the overview of that meeting with those guys?
I think the biggest thing when you take over a program that's been pretty successful is like they need to know that I'm a different person than Liam was, right? And we're different people, and that's okay. Like we have different styles, and obviously what he did and his staff did worked, and it was very good. And what myself and our staff will do will work, and just that communication piece, making sure that they know that we're there for them as people, making sure that when something does come up that is very different, let's have conversation about it. Let's communicate. Again, what I love about our guys who are here and stayed is like they believed in UMBC and they believed in staying through, with myself and our staff. So just really making sure that they know that we're there for them, but also, making sure that they know there are going to be adjustments, right? And that's just reality with any coaching change. It could be assistant moves into the head coach. They're just different people. So
right.
Just helping them understand that, because going through coaching change in college is not easy. So trying to help them with that.
And you have a team meeting later today. Is that some of the same thing you'll talk about, or will it be a little different with this group?
A little bit different because there's so many new faces, like in so many different things. So just how we act on campus and just being a model program, and a program that, again, when people see that you play UMBC baseball, that they're excited to talk to you, excited to know that you're a part of our program. Because I always think like on a campus, you see a logo and a sport underneath it, and there's two reactions you get. There's the like, oh, you play baseball. And then there's the, oh, he's on the baseball team, and keep walking. Right. I want our program to be, and it's been this way, is to be really excited that, when they see our guys wearing our logo. So I expect that to continue, and just how we interact with our support staff, with our other coaches, with just the campus community is really important.
Excellent answer. So the World Baseball Coaches Convention, which is in its 22nd, 23rd year, it takes place at Mohegan Sun. I don't know if have you ever been to it?
Yeah, I went a couple times when I was in Vermont.
Yeah, it's just such a great thing. A local flavor, great speakers. They sponsor this podcast, which is awesome. So I always ask this question in this segment. What advice does Dave Gage have for a high school kid that wants to play at UMBC or any level of college? Like, if you were to go back to yourself as a sophomore, like, what would you change, or what would you say, hey, these are things, could be one thing, could be a couple, that are have to be part of your lifestyle, your habits, for the end result to work out the way you want it?
Yeah, you got to love this thing. Like, and it doesn't matter what level you play at, but you better love it. It's an everyday thing, right? There's no, with college baseball, and again, I've coached at Division III, I've coached at Division I. Like, you can't just like it. You can't just show up and do it. And I just think your habits and everything you do are super important. So again, like how you go in the classroom is like, you don't have to be the valedictorian, you don't have to be a 4.0 student, but if you're a 3.0 student, be a 3.0 student. Don't be a 2.8,
Right.
Academics can change your life. So, with the high school kid, like, do the right things. And the baseball world is so small, right? Like we were just talking, we
Yep.
talked to so many people that we know, and man, you never know who you're going to come across, right? Like somebody on our staff right now might be a head coach in 2 years, or okay, I was the assistant at the Mountain, now I'm the head coach. Like you just don't know where people's journeys are going to go. So when somebody calls you and says, "Hey, we're interested," respond to them. You don't have to say yes, but like say thank you. Because again, you just don't know where journeys are. Like our staff, and it's not announced yet, but it's somebody who's at the Division II level and someone who's at the Division III level. So if you were a D1 or bust guy and ignored those guys, and your name comes up in our recruiting meeting, that talks about who you are. Like again, we talked about separators. Like again, we want to be around these people. So just again, you don't know where coaches are going to be. Like just respond to them and just love the game and do you well in the classroom, and you'll be all right.
Yeah, and there's such another part of that too is people have this image of what they think about various schools. It's not until you actually get there and look around and see the place could be completely different for good or bad from what you were expecting, right? So you always got to you really should always go look at schools if they're showing interest, unless you just absolutely know, in which case you should respond and say, "Hey, I appreciate your interest, but I got further along with other schools now." You're right, because people do move, and it's just like it's human nature. Even when I'm working with kids, I say, if you commit to a school, anyone else that was recruiting you and there was a phone call conversation or a visit, like you need to get on the phone and call that guy and say, "Thank you for recruiting me. I'm going somewhere else," because first of all, it's the right thing to do. But you also never know that you could want to transfer. The coach, as you said, it's a small world. There's more movement than ever between coaches and players, so it's just the right thing to do. But Dave, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited that you got this program. You got a lot of chaos going on, but I mean, really with these new guys, but it's a perfect time to shape this program the way you want it to, and you've had success everywhere. I'd expect you to have success, here as well. So thank you so much for your time. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You got it, buddy. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Game Plan podcast by College Baseball Advisors. I hope you enjoyed my talk with Dave Gage, the new head baseball coach at UMBC. Covered a lot, obviously, about his background. Really good guy, and really, was really cool to learn what it's like to take over a program in August with the portal and then recruiting the 27 class. So I hope you enjoyed it. Again, as I mentioned in the opening, if you send me a message at wayne@mazzoni.com, my email, I will give you the best insider tip I could ever give anyone at camps, prospect camps, showcase camps that will help you get recruited. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Feel free to reach out. You could also go to my website, collegebaseballadvisor.com, and happy to set up a meeting to talk about your recruiting process and where you're at and educate you on the craziness of that's going on in the recruiting process. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on our next episode.